The central question of Elric of Melnibone by Michael Moorcock is what happens when the ruler of an evil empire decides to change himself and his world for the better. Elric is the emperor of Melnibone, which is an island in a medieval fantasy world that has long dominated all the lands around it, and its domination is slipping away. Elric is an interesting dude. He's frail and sick, kept alive by drugs, but he's also brilliant and is curious about the world and about himself. His curiosity leads him to question his people's cruel ways and consider making changes. And not everyone in his society likes that. In this cruel and decadent society of Melnibone, some people see his tendency toward mercy as a weakness and think he's unfit to rule. And the complications of that conflict end up turning his world upside down and leading him a quest across the world and across even dimensions in order to find a mythical weapon that will help him triumph. This book is old school sword and sorcery. It's fast paced. It's got a lot of action. It's also refreshingly short. Like, this is not a door stopper. That's not even a paperweight. It was written in the 70s when fantasy was more focused on stories being published in magazines. And so these authors had limited space and they knew how to tell a story efficiently. Just, get in, get out. As far as things that might put people off, Elric's an anti-hero. He comes from a society of world-conquering wizards. So he's not your typical hero. The Melniboneans are kind of like if the elves from Lord of the Rings started worshipping Balrogs and just totally turned decadent. I've heard that these characters, the Melniboneans, actually inspired the Dark Elves in Warhammer, and I can definitely see the similarities there. While Elric's views of right and wrong are closer to ours in the real world in the 21st century than the views of most of his people, he still does things that'll make you wince. Like, he's not your typical hero. Second, if you're looking for a book with a deep, detailed setting, this isn't it. Part of this book's efficiency is that it doesn't go into the depth of world building that a lot of modern fantasy readers expect. Basically, this book tells you what you need to know and just leaves you with impressions of the rest. Finally, Elric of Melnibone is the first book in a series, and it sets up the rest. It leaves you with the impression that the biggest stuff in the story is yet to come, that there's a lot more adventures that you just haven't seen yet. It kind of feels like the first episode of a good TV show. It tells a full story, a beginning, middle, and end, but it doesn't really feel like a full meal all on its own. But overall, this book is exciting, it's fun, it just does exactly what it sets out to do, and it does it really well. And it tells the story, the origin story of a fantasy character who is still remembered in fantasy circles even half a century later. And if you're on the fence, just know that this book will only take you a few hours to read. Elric of Melnibone by Michael Moorcock.